Streamlining the workflow for my students is always one goal. However, I also look to make my own work more efficient. And I can do that in a few ways. One is through the use of a grading document. Google Forms are a wonderful resource, multiple choice questions, true false type of questions. You can set it up as a quiz. And if we look at our screen, look up this screen right here, I can set it up as a quiz. This is a math assignment. However, the issue becomes with math. My students need to enter in numerical answers frequently, and Google Forms doesn't provide answer keys for that type of response. As a result, I've set up my own grading document using Google Sheets. So the students fill out a form such as this, and their data is transferred into a Google Sheet. Down here, form responses. I have a record of all of my students when they submit the response, their name, their actual responses, and the questions are listed above too. And then I have another tab over here, an answer comparison grading module. And if I click on that, this sheet takes all the information from my students and has the questions listed, has their answer listed, and it compares their answers with the answers I provided as kind of an answer key, which are up here. And if those two responses are different, then they get different feedback on this tab over here, which is a kind of the grading document that the students see. And my answer key, I filled out the form first, so that's always the top line, and it's really just comparing the students' answers with my answers. So if I look at some of my kiddos down here, anything that's green means that they answered that correctly. Anything red means that they gave an incorrect answer. And in my math class, I expect 85% or higher on all assignments. Now, this assignment has just 10 questions, so in essence, they have to get 90 or above before they have shown me mastery of this assessment. So if I take a look at Madeline here, she scored 7 out of 10, missed question 1 and 3 and 7. She went back to her assignment on this form here, which is also it tells her which problem it is and on which page number in her own student book. She goes back to those questions in her book, fixes her answers, uses new strategies, finds her errors, and then she can fill this form out a second time. And when we look at her second attempt, here's Madeline. She was able to fix number 1, get the correct answer, and did the same for number 7 as now a correct answer as well. So she went from 70% to 90%, and she's shown me mastery, and then she can move on to choice activities that I list for all of my students once they've finished. So not only can I look at individual students, and as I scroll down a little further, I have another student down here that was at a 50%. Here she is right here, Miss Isabella, and missing 3, 4, 7, 9, and 10. And when I see something like that, that lets me know I can go sit down with her immediately and give her some remediation to assist her on her next attempt. Students that miss maybe just 2 or 3, I kind of expect them to make those changes on their own. And then as they fill out their assignments and it populates in this grading document, I also get to see a class picture and look for any problems that may prove difficult for the group as a whole. And as I scroll up through all of our responses, this question number 3 and also question number 10 are the ones that are most often missed. Question 2 was missed quite a bit, and question 7, but if we look over here, it's from my friend Andre, who missed all of those. And so he was one that also I got to sit down with quickly and give him more support. And then next week, when he turns in his assignment, we'll look for some improvement. But questions 2 and questions 10 questions 3, and questions 10 were the primary sources of trouble for this group. So then I can gather them up as a whole. We can look at these problems. Question 3 right here is pretty difficult question, asking them to divide a number in half and then give some to one student, in this case Andrew, and take some away from another student, in this case Todd, um, and figure out what number Andrew has. And it took some work, and we used a lot of manipulatives, but I was able to give them more support after seeing their responses initially. And then we can scroll down to the last question here, question number 10. Judy has 573 baseball cards. Todd has 489. How many fewer cards does Todd have than Judy? And what I found was that subtraction, especially at the beginning of third grade, they don't always use the best principles, and they forget to regroup or borrow in their process. So I was able to sit down with several of those students and go through that process again and allow them to go back then and fix their errors. So this grading document, especially with math, gives me a lot of valuable information. The feedback comes in as soon as they submit their Google form. The students go up and they can check a laptop and check for their scores, allowing them to make corrections as necessary. The one added benefit that this gives me, I have found that digital assignments, it's difficult to give parents, student work going back home all the time. So I have this tab here called Columns, and I can move to it, and I can choose, look at Hudson here, for example. If I can take his responses here and copy this entire column of his responses and paste that into my gradebook, which then gets updated online. Parents get to view their children's grades online, accessing my gradebook just for their child. And so then parents can see all of these questions. They can see his responses. And if necessary, if he got it wrong, like number 7 here, it has a little pound sign, or I guess hashtag nowadays, they can see what his answer was, and then the correct answer is also provided. So they get to actually see those lessons, or those assignments rather, from home, and papers don't get lost on the way home, especially those papers where those assignments didn't have the best score on them. Parents can see everything at all times. And so that is one workaround I found to enhance my parent communication with these digital assignments, especially with math.